a Muslim group has issued 18 demands for Keir Starmer to win back voters' loss over Gaza. We're going to read into this more from The Independent, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from The Independent with the headline of a Muslim group has issued 18 demands for Keir Starmer to win back voters lost over Gaza. The Muslim vote, which aims to organise voters against MPs who did not back the ceasefire in the conflict, has called for the Labour leader to apologise for his earlier stance on Israel's campaign against Hamas. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share us across social media so others are notified of this video. Now, I think it's very clear to make this, that this is one group, and I want to make this very important distinction that this does not represent every single Muslim's opinions about what's happening over there. This does not represent every single Muslim within the UK. It's a representation of those who are associated with the Muslim vote and with this group. Let's be very clear about this. Yeah, this is not the entire Muslim population within the UK behind this. This is a specific group and those who are aware of it and those who support it and whatnot. Now, I think it's very, very. Now, obviously, the other thing as well is obviously, of course, I would say that the majority of Muslims would back a ceasefire and wants this conflict to stop that's happening in the Middle East without a shadow of a doubt. But there is also a differentiation that not everyone always agrees about how it should be done. There may be some disagreements about that. One thing that I think everyone is united on is just the guns to stop, the children to stop dying of war, of famine, of food and water within there. Just people who have just lost over 34,000 have now died. The last report that I've read. This could be higher by the time you read this. And Israel's, the way that they have responded to this, ever since the atrocious attack that took place by Hamas on October the 7th, which we all condemn, which was a horrific and horrible attack by Hamas. The reaction by the Israeli government has been anything short of pathetic, in my opinion, because they have been extremely brutal and extremely harsh on the entire population within the Gaza Strip, as in to paint everyone as Hamas and everyone is to be treated the same. We have seen photos and videos of some of how the treatment have been held by the IDF. I've even covered a story about those held within prison camps by Israel detentions on the other side as well, which have been nothing short of horrific and horrible to talk about. But what angers me just as much as the fact that we still don't have a ceasefire at the time of this recording is how Israel are so stubborn when it comes to allowing aid to come into the Gaza Strip. It's extremely frustrating, it's extremely disheartening, and it's infuriating. And we keep, whenever I hear politicians, pundits and whatnots on these news programs talking about what's happening, they always keep going around this rhetoric of, yes, but Israel has a right to defend itself. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing that, because it's like, we've passed that point. We've long passed that point. Why is there not more humane? Why is there not more anger over Israel and the way it's handling itself? For me, like, I feel like the Western nations are just not doing enough. They're just not doing enough. And recently, news came out about quite recently that apparently the US have stopped supplying certain weapons and arms to Israel. Not 100% confirmed on that. I've only seen it from one news source, but I'm sure maybe some of you in the comments will say that it has actually happened. As of the time of this recording, the UK are still, while not, as far as I'm aware, not directly supplying Israel with weapons. They have been sending parts and whatnot to America, and then what they normally, from what I've read and various reports, is that they sent parts and things to America to build the equipment, and then they get sent from there to Israel. Now, obviously, whether that's still happening or not, I don't know, remains a mystery. But Sunak has not, at the time of this recording, said that they will stop aiding Israel in any way, shape, or form. But Labour's position has kind of been switching back and forth and whatnot. And I've been very critical, and I'm sure many others have been critical of Labour's position, especially when the attack happened. We had the SNP and the Green Party were very clear about they wanted immediately, as soon as this happened, after the October 7th tragedy, to immediately call for a ceasefire. And Labour's position was kind of like they were scared, they were petrified of upsetting Israel, and they just kept saying that Israel has a right to defend itself, even if it cuts off food and water. No, Israel has a right to defend itself. Well, what they're going to... And Keir Starmer was asked this, what, including when they cut off food and water, Israel has the right to defend itself. This was the continuous line that we kept happening over and over again. Not thinking whatsoever about the repercussions of this. And this is not just about Muslim voters here. A lot of people, non-Muslim voters as well here in the UK, are very angry about this. This is anything but democratic, that what Israel are doing in the Middle East. And it's angering a lot of people who don't hate Israel, that don't hate Jews. They don't. What they hate is what the government is doing and the situation and the way they are handling it and the lives that are being lost. The anger is to me, is more directed at the government. But because of the way that Israel have handled this, it has created that tension more than it should be. We have tension of targeting of Muslims, of Palestinians, and of Jewish people around the world who have no affiliation with any of this. Some don't want nothing to do with it and just want to live with their life. Some are choosing to take sides. There are still organisations out there that still back Israel, although I do question their part in it, because surely they would have heard some of the actions that the IDF have taken. And there are obviously some, like these ones, who want something done about this. So it is a very difficult situation, that is for sure. So, what are these 18 demands that this Muslim vote are asking for? Well, let's read into it then, guys. So, a Muslim campaign that has issued Sir Keir Starmer with 18 demands in order to win back support lost due to his stance on Israel's war in Gaza. Now, this is the thing. This is also the same. You can also apply this issue with Americans over Joe Biden's US presidential election as well. That can come back to bite him as well. It's entirely possible this could cost him a hung parliament, but that may be feasible. Maybe we don't know that for sure. But I would always say right now, let's just wait closer to the general election and see what polls are saying. But it could have a detrimental impact on Labour's chances of getting a full control of the enough seats, majority. Sorry, it may do, it may not. But again, we'll have to wait and see. So the Muslim vote, which aims to organise voters against MPs who did not back a ceasefire in the conflict, has called for the Labour leader to apologise for his early stance on Israel's campaign against Hamas. And it has urged Keir Starmer to promise to cut military ties with Israel and let Muslims pray in schools, and for Labour figures to return Zionist money. Now, this one here, I don't know why Muslims are not allowed to pray in school. I think that's abhorrent. I think it's pathetic. There's no reason why they shouldn't be allowed to pray in school. Sorry, there's no reason for it. Demanding for Labour figures to return Zionist money. We want them to, but let's be clear, they're not going to do that. Days after the Muslim Council of Britain, the MCB, held the local election results as a wake-up call over politicians' response to the atrocities in Gaza, the Muslim vote reissued a list of demands. Labour campaign chief Pat McFadden has admitted the party's stance over the war cost its support in the local elections. He said it was a factor in some places, but which he was not surprised by. On Tuesday, Rachel Reeves became the latest senior figure to acknowledge the difficulty posed by Labour's stance on the conflict, saying that she regrets whether someone decides that they cannot bring themselves to vote for the Labour Party. She said anyone who sees the scene unfold on our television screens, including this weekend in Rafah, and people being displaced multiple times, but also people that have seen the taking of hostages at a music festival in Israel, can't be helped but moved by those scenes. Yes. But Where's your? What about all the people? Like, where's the saying that what's happening inside Gaza? You know, we're not going to mention all the lives being lost there. Not going to mention them at all. Again. And that's why we've called for an immediate ceasefire to allow aid into Gaza unimpeded, but also the release of hostages that are still in the underground tunnels in Gaza. They must be freed as well. Now, I recognise there are some people who didn't vote for Labour last week because they did have concerns. But you won't condemn Israel's actions of handling of this. This is the problem that people have, is that you recognise the atrocities that Hamas have caused, but you don't want to, in any way, shape or form, recognise the damage that Israel have caused since that October 7th horrific attack. You refuse to acknowledge that, which is what I think not just Muslim votes, but a lot of people have feelings about. But left-wing campaign group Momentum called on Labour to do more to pressure Rishi Sunak and Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron into suspending arms sales to Israel. As Israel launched an attack on the southern city of Rafah in the Gaza Strip, a spokesman for the group said, plainly, Israel acting like a rogue state. The UK government must now suspend arms to prevent further UK complicity, and Labour should be pressuring Sunak and Cameron accordingly. Labour lost its majority of 13 years in Oldham, which has already been whistled down due to defections last month over the party's approach on Gaza. And sources from Labour West Midlands have claimed that some Muslim votes stayed home, while many backed independent pro-Gaza candidates Akin Yugbuk. MCB Secretary General Zala Mohammed said the dissatisfaction with politicians is palpable, and the response from the atrocities in Gaza is only the tip of the iceberg. These election results are a wake-up call to all parties. Every vote counts. Politicians can't take anyone for granted, especially not British Muslims. A key demand for the of the Muslim vote is for Keir Starmer to apologise for the green light in a genocide and for not supporting an SNP-led ceasefire vote last November. And the wording was, of course, the problem is that Labour do not want to condemn Israel at all for what they're causing in there. The reality is that they don't want to. They don't want to, guys. They just don't want to do it. They don't want to condemn Israel for what they are doing, and the footage is there for people to see. The pictures are there with inside the Gaza Strip. We're seeing them, no matter how much the IDF and Israel government are trying to cover up what's happening. They don't want people to see it, but we are seeing what's happening because there are journalists who are seeing what's going on and telling us, as well as the people within the Gaza Strip. The demands relate to Keir Starmer's apparent initial support for Israel withholding humanitarian aid from Gaza. Asked on LBC on October the 11th if cutting off power and water has an appropriate response, Keir had replied, I think that Israel does have a right. It is an ongoing situation. Yeah, he never apologised for that. He should have apologised. Obviously, everything should be done with international law, but I don't want to step away from the core principles that Israel has a right to defend itself and Hamas bears responsibility for the terrorist acts. But he later wrote back the remarks amid concern within the party that it had angered voters, particularly those within Muslim communities. Despite his attempts to clarify the remarks, the clip of Sir Keir on LBC is still widely shared by those attacking the party's approach to the Middle East. Yeah, because he's never apologised for those remarks, it's just something that people will just keep playing over and over. You know, that's all they need to do is play that over and over to people, and it stings. You know, stings. It really does. Other demands include a promise to sanction companies operating in occupied Palestinian territories, place a travel ban on Israeli politicians who have prosecuted this war, and to ensure insurance quotes are not high for people named Mohammed. The Muslim Vote describes itself as a broad collective with the large support of a huge portion of the Muslim community. It's supported by 24 groups, which include some which Michael Gove has said in Parliament may fall foul of his department's new definition of extremism. Groups he named that give rise to concern of their Islamic orientation and views were Muslim Engagement and Development, MEND, and the Muslim Association of Britain. I don't know about all these specific groups, so I'm not going to speculate on what Michael Gove has said. It's entirely possible there may be some extremist groups, but there also may be just some who generally just want a ceasefire and want the bloodshed to stop. Like myself, I'm sure most people, and like myself and like many people in the comments, I'm sure, will say. Both groups, which back the Muslim Vote, have rejected Mr. Gove's characterisation. Its website displayed a list of all the constituencies with at least 10% Muslim voters, which let users see that they have voted in past ceasefire motions. It is then planning to add an advertising name of each seat who supporters should vote for. who said will be backed by local civil society organisations. The seat which took the most perilous belonged to Birmingham Ladywood MP Shamar Bahud, who it says abstained on the vote, as well as Bethnal Green and Stephen E. Ruska Ali. Both have more than 40% Muslim electorates. But the group appears to ignore a ceasefire motion passed by the Labour Party on a chaotic night in the House of Commons in February. The group's website states Muslims and all people who stand for justice agree that the current political class does not represent us peacefully, politically and persistently. We will vote them out. Regarding its demands, it says there is more they'll do. For starters, ask our Salafis. We built some consensus around them. Labour was asked for comment. At the time of this, they have not responded. So this is the Muslim list of full list of demands below. So apologise for their comments green lighting a genocide for not backing a ceasefire in November 2023. Sanctions on companies operating in occupied territories. Sanctions on settlers. Recognising Palestine as a state. They will not do that. They should, but they won't. A travel ban on all Israeli politicians that persecute this war and support the illegal occupation. Again, they will not do that. End military ties with Israel. They may stop weapons and arms, but they will not end military ties with Israel. Issue guidance that Muslims are allowed to pray in school. There is absolutely no reason why they should not be allowing this. I don't see why this is an issue. I really don't see why that's an issue. Implement findings of people's relevant of prevent and not Shawcross. Remove the extremist definition that Michael Gove introduced. Again, like I said, I don't know the groups too well enough, so I can't comment on that. Commit to full implementation of Royal Charter of the Media Regulation. I'm assuming that's to do with how the media are basically portraying this scenario, and I do agree that mainstream media is not doing a very fair and decent job of the reporting of it. Adopt the APPG definition of Islamophobia. Commit a review of public sector equality duty. Increase council and public health funding for its 10% most deprived areas in the country. And finally, address systematic and chronic health issues as detailed in the Marmot Review and revisited by the Health Foundation 10 years later. I would like to say this is an obvious one that Labour should commit to. If they don't, I don't know why they would not want to do that. Deliver alternative student finance. Ensure Sharia compliance pensions are available at every workplace, so 1/3 of Muslims without pension get one. Ensure insurance quotas don't cost more for someone called Muhammad. Yep, that makes total sense. Why should someone's name or religion just be costing more just because of their background? It makes total sense to me. Commit 7% of the local government's pension schemes, public sector committees to ethical and Islamic funds. Again, I have no problem with that. 17, oppose, boycott, divestment and sanctions BSD's bill to kick it out of law. Remove the electronic spill influence offence from the statute. That last one I can't comment on either, but I mean some of these are one or two are reasonable. Some of them, make sense. From a logical point of view, it's like, yeah, it makes sense, yeah, that they want these, but we know where these politicians stand, and they're scared. In my opinion, they're afraid of upsetting Israel. We are too tied into Israel, not just from weapons and arms, but from long-term relationships as well. And it's very disheartening, to say the least. For me, my anger is always the government. It's not the people of Israel. I don't have anything against the people of Israel. And it's just the way that this has been handled. And it's also important to remember that this history has been going before October the 7th as well. What's been happening in the occupied West Banks. People forget about that as well. That's been going on too. People forget about that. I was covering short videos as well on this channel last year before that attack as well. So, we weren't not enough mainstream media were talking about that either. So it's frustrating. It is really frustrating, guys. But what do you guys think? What do you guys make of Labour's position? What do you guys make of the Muslim groups and this Muslim group and their demands? What do you make overall on people's positions about how they feel about it? What do you honestly think? Do you think Labour should be doing more? Do you think Labour should call out Israel flat out? Do you understand why Labour are being cautious about this? I want you to try explain from your point of view how you feel about this situation. Even whether you are a Labour supporter, whether you're a Conservative, or maybe even you're from Reform and you have differences in terms of in terms of this. Let me know your thoughts about all this and more in the comment section down below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.